How did you get involved in shock treatment, the audition process?
I was in a band with Gary Shales. We had a band which was a three-piece band called Back Chat. We'd been at school together. We go back to kind of 1973 or 4, Gary and I. We did a lot of music stuff together through school. And then we formed our band, and we were working with the band. We were both actors, and we were rehearsing, kind of every couple of days with this band. He was going in for the audition for shock treatment, and he said to me, "Oh, give us a lift down there." But I had a car, he didn't. So we drove down there, and we were down in Covent Garden in London. And so I dropped him off, he went in, and I sat in the car waiting, and he came running out and said, Dave, they need a drummer. I've told them you're perfect for it. Come in quick. So I went, oh, right, okay. So left my car, ran in, and he said, oh, this is my drummer, Dave. They're in the band together. He's an actor. He's been in the Royal Shakespeare Company. He's really good. You should meet him. So, and there was the casting director, Richard O'Brien. I don't think the director was there, but he may well have been. There were 3 or 4 people there. So Debbie McWilliams, who was the casting director, asked me a few questions. What have you done? And I told her my little CV at the time, which was quite good. I was doing quite good work, Royal Shakespeare Company, done mainly theatre work, but I'd been in a movie called Chariots of Fire. So I'd already been in that at that point. So they said, oh, yeah, we didn't know you were a drummer. That's fantastic. Great. Who's your agent? And my agent, actually, at that time was the same as Gary. So they said, okay, we'll be in touch. And Gary then had to go and audition for the actual singing. I think he went down to Richard Hartley's house and did a bit of an audition down there on his own. And then we both got a phone call offering us the roles.
So you did play the drums with Gary's band?
Yeah, I'd always played drums from a child. I mean, I had my first drum kit, I was about 5 years old. So I'd always played drums. I'd played in all sorts of bands. I was in a punk band with Gary when we were at school. That was called the Urban Gorillas. And that spelt gorilla, not gorilla, like the animal,
I had to say, when I was listening to your story there, you said you were driving, and when I watch shock treatment, first thing I think of is you have to be the youngest person there. I didn't even think you were old enough to drive. Yeah. Well, at that point, and it's funny you should say that, I had a gig, when I passed my driving test at 17, I had a job as a drummer in a Mayfair supper club where they had a pianist from New York, actually, a guy called Terry Hammond from New York, who played the piano. Mm-hmm. And it was the kind of cabaret bar where people got up and sang cabaret, and I was the drummer. It was my first kind of drumming gig of that level. It was a good little gig, Mm-hmm. I was still at drama school, and Gary's girlfriend at the time, she was one of the singers. So Gary was always there hanging out. We were good friends anyway. And I passed my driving test at 17. Bear in mind, that's about 2 or 3 years before Shock Treatment was filmed. And I drove into the West End, and as I was parking my car for the first time ever, with the drum kit in the back, getting ready to unload the drum kit, the police pulled up and said, get out of the car, boy, whose car is it, And I said, it's mine. And they went, nah, and Gary was with me, and he was laughing. Wow.
And they said, come on, out of the car, there's no way that car's yours, you should be at school. And I said, no, it's mine, and I had to get all my documents out and everything.
They thought you were much younger.
Well, yeah, I mean, that went on for years. I could never, ever, at that age, risk any driving offence or drinking and driving or anything like that at all, because I was stopped at least once a week driving up the road looking like a kid. I looked about 15.
So you're probably short in stature.
Yeah, I'm diminutive. I'm about 5'5". So I'm short. I've got a very young face, and you couldn't really blame the police. I did look like a 15-year-old kid driving around, That actually is what got me a lot of my acting work at that age, because I was very young. I looked younger. I mean, I was playing kind of 17, 18, 19-year-olds right up to the age of 30, you know.
Are you still in contact with Gary Shale?
We all got together last October, just gone, for the whole shock treatment thing, because they had, down at the British Film Institute, they had a celebration of that and the Rocky Horror Show. I think it was 30 years since the movie was shot.
Shot in 1980, if I'm right.
So it's 35 years.
Right.
Or 36. Well, God, it doesn't make sense, does it? So it was last year. So yeah, it was probably from release. It was 35 years or something from release. But what they had was Rocky Horror Picture Show first showing. They had lots of panels, question and answers with the cast of both things. Pat Quinn was there and various other people were there.
Right.
And they had all the bits got together, apart from Gary Martin, who was away. So that was like a big reunion. Sunita was there, and Donald and Claire Toman. We were all there, and Gary was there. And that's the first time I'd seen Gary for probably, I don't know, something like 5 years, because he moved out of London. I've got a family. You just stop moving in the same circles, don't you, when you have kids and everything?
Right.
So it was great to get back together. We had a right old laugh and a chinwag.
Sunita's really, really busy now. I don't know.
God, yeah. I mean, she was so sweet that day, because I hadn't seen Sunita for, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something. And we were really, genuinely such good pals on that job. And we acted like a band, and we hung out together. And after we'd shot, we'd shoot all day, and then we'd all go clubbing together. It's a real camaraderie. We had such fun, and we all wished it was a real band. As it turned out, the film didn't immediately have an impact here, certainly. Right. I don't think it did in the States either. It kind of disappeared and went under the radar. And I think possibly if it had ever had as big an impact as they had wanted, that probably would have happened. But, it seems to be getting more of an impact now than it did back then.
So you were 20 or 21 when you filmed that?
I think if that was shot in 1980, I was 20.
The first scene they filmed was like the pool hall scenes in the arcade, because there was someone else playing Brenda. Yeah,
you're right. That's absolutely true. They were the first scenes, and the other actress had rehearsed everything, because we had rehearsal period for shock treatment.
Uh-huh.
But we all got together and we rehearsed, and we learnt the songs, and because we had to know the songs inside out, because we were playing them, when we were filming the movie. We had to know all the words, and we had to know all the, well, for me, the drum patterns, and, we had to be able to play the music as if we were playing it live. So we had quite a couple of weeks rehearsal period.
So you're saying that when you filmed Breaking Out, it was not live, you were lip syncing, or?
It had been recorded in the studio to a high level, obviously, of sound production. So it wasn't like a live recording. They wanted it all mixed how they wanted it mixed.
Right.
And we performed it, again, we basically played it live, but we weren't playing it, if you see what I mean. It was a mime job, yeah, and Gary was miming. But we basically played it. We had to know it inside out, and we all did. We all learned it inside out.
What can you tell me about that actress that Claire replaced?
She was taken ill. I don't know what the illness was. I didn't ever hear of her ever again. Her name was Robin something, and I can't get the second name.
So the first scenes were the
pool cues, and the white suits and all that. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
And
because we'd worked on that with a choreographer, because you could see there's a bit of choreography in that.
Correct.
Gillian Gregory, who was a choreographer, we did quite a lot of work with her in rehearsal. Yeah, she was great.
Do you remember what the last scene that you specifically filmed was?
It was the
anyhow.
We're going to do it anyhow. On the car, on the back of the car. It was almost shot in order, that movie. Right. It's quite unusual for a movie, but I suppose with that one it makes sense, because they had to get the live audience in every day. All those guys that were the audience, they had to be there for a certain period of time. So in that week or 2 weeks, they were in every day. So they had to get all the stuff done in front of the audience in that period. So they just did it in order,
There is Oscar Drill's mother in the audience, and she's waving, and she's like, ha, 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 and when you guys are playing Breaking Out. And that's the only, it's mentioned in the script. She's definitely there. I don't know if you know who that actress is, or if you know who I'm talking about.
I think it was one of the background artists who were in for the audience. I mean, bear in mind, they did, much like Rocky Horror Picture Show, they took those background artists very seriously. They wanted them to have a certain look.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't remember ever meeting the woman who played Oscar Drill's mum.
What scene of yours is your favorite?
To be honest, I mean, what felt like the most exciting one to shoot, and the one that was all about us, that was kind of summed up Oscar Drill in the bits, was Breaking Out, because that was our big number. That's the one we worked on. That kind of said everything we were. It was like playing a live gig. I remember the setup. I remember all the cameras around and the audience, and we ran through that. I think we did it 3 times.
Wow.
And I think they used the first take.
Gary Shales backflipping there. That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of his specialities. He used to backflip at every party we ever went to when we were teenagers.
When you guys were performing before Shock Treatment, he would do a backflip?
Yeah, he would do it not necessarily in a performance. He'd be in a party in the back garden drinking gin and tonic and he'd backflip. Yeah.
That's funny. It says in the film you didn't have any spoken lines to speak, but did you have any lines cut or anything in that area? I don't know.
There was. I was reminded of this when we saw it back in October. We saw it up on the big screen, you know, and I had one word, which is when she's coming down the stairs and they all go, "Oh, and here she comes, Janet," and I kind of turn to the side and go, "Wow," and that was it. That was it. There's only ever one word in the script. There's only ever one word, and I thought they were going to revoice me because it wasn't America. I mean, I was doing my American accent, going, "Wow," you know. I mean, you can't really go wrong with one word. and there's one point in the film where they actually revoice Oscar Drill.
Really?
They've got a bit. Yeah, there's a bit where I don't think he's even aware of it. There's a scene when he's in, now where is it? He's in a dressing room and he has a little conversation with, I think it's Janet and one of the other band members. Maybe
the medicine, the pills.
Yeah, it's that bit. And he suddenly talks in a deep American accent like that, doesn't he? His voice, and that is, I'm sure that's a revoice. It doesn't sound like him. It just doesn't sound like him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I work a lot in revoicing movies now. I do a lot of that now. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I'm very aware of that. As an audience member, you'd never know. You'd never be aware that a lot of it goes on.
Sunita, when she was speaking, I can hear her specifically very clearly a British accent.
The funny thing about that is that Sunita's mum was American, and she, as far as we were concerned, had an American accent, because we were all Londoners. We all thought she had an American accent, but when she did the movie, she was putting on an English accent.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite bizarre, the whole thing.
Do you know if there was any scenes with or without you filmed that may have been cut from the film?
I'm not aware of any. There's nothing that we did that didn't end up in it. Okay. I think it was so, in the end, once he'd written it and he'd rehearsed it, and we rehearsed it out in Wembley, and they put all these songs together in order. We went from A to Z and A to Z a few times to the backing track. The backing track had been recorded.
Right.
It was kind of so tight. It was unlike making a movie that you would normally make, where you would shoot reams and reams of stuff and loads of extra scenes and lots of different things that they would then edit down. It's as if they'd worked on it and that his final script that he got down to, that was it.
Yeah, there were many scripts.
Yeah, I mean, he worked for years on getting the script. That's right. Ever since the Rocky Horror Picture Show, they were working on it. I mean, it was going to be originally a kind of a sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
That's what they were planning to do. And those songs, Breaking Out, there's about 4 or 5 of those songs that they'd written to be with all the same characters that finished the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
So do you keep in touch with any of the other Oscar Drill and the Bits?
When we all got together recently, we've all swapped numbers, so we're all in touch now. I've lost track of most of them, but not Gary Martin, because Gary Martin works on the same kind of circuit that I work on now. He's a very well-known voice actor.
Yes.
And he does a lot of, you know, the kind of voice of God, you know, coming to a cinema near you, all those kind of voices. He does loads of those.
So you and the team of Oscar Drill and the Bits, you were like a close-knit family.
All we did was laugh. We just laughed and laughed and laughed. And the atmosphere was just fantastic. And, you know, for us, we were all young kids, but you got someone like Barry Humphries, who was mega famous at the time.
Yeah.
Turns out.
I've heard about that.
And he was just, oh, boy, kids, welcome, enjoy yourselves, you know, and they were just so kind of welcoming. And because we were filming, you know, every day over a couple of weeks or 3 weeks or something, we were all in every day. And whether we actually got to shoot something or not, we were still there. So we'd all turn up, we'd all hang out in the dressing room, and when we weren't filming, we'd be singing and mucking around and coming up with something and trying to write a new song and you know, it was just energy and creative energy everywhere. You know, it was amazing.
Did you ever feel starstruck or like, I can't believe I'm in the presence of Barry Humphries? Or?
Well, I mean, up to that point, I've been working, doing quite a lot of things, and I've worked with, you know, Chariots of Fire, and been an Oscar-winning movie, and I was with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I've worked with quite a few people. So it wasn't starstruck, but I knew the Rocky Horror thing, because I remember when it started in Chelsea in the theatre. And I remember it growing, and I remember it taking off, and I remember thinking, wow, that's a really cool thing, you know.
And you'd seen Rocky Horror.
Yeah. So I can really, I mean, we used to go down and hang out down at the Royal Court and down the King's Road and all that all the time when I was about 17. And it was the cool thing to go and see. And so to be involved with it, to be involved with Richard O'Brien was kind of, felt great. You know, there's like, this is proper. You know, although a lot of the cast were pretty well known, it was more the fact that it was Rocky Horror and Richard O'Brien than anything. I mean, you thought this is something really interesting, it's unusual, it's unique, it comes from that kind of mad creative energy of Richard O'Brien, and that's what he saw in all of us as a band. He picked us, all these different little personalities, and we all were manically over-energized at that age. Now I look back, you know, people burn brightly, don't they, sometimes when they're really young for a few years, and you just bursting with this energy, and we all had that, and we all kind of came together, and there wasn't a conflict at all. We were all kind of in it together, and it just, you can see it. I mean, looking at the film when we saw it back in October, you could see from each and every one of us this kind of energy bursting out of us. You know, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it definitely shows. The spirit is there with all of you. It's like a family. You can just tell. Now, did you see the movie at the theater when it came out? No,
we didn't. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there wasn't even a premiere here in the UK.
Oh.
I know there was one in the States because a friend of mine who was an actor at the time, he saw it. He was out in the States, and he was there when there was a premiere, and he found it bizarre because he knew me and Gary, and he said, there are all these people dressed up as you. And, you know, he thought it was really funny. And we kind of then waited for there to be a UK premiere, and it didn't ever happen.
Jessica Harper told me that she found people in costumes outside of her house, and it was a little intimidating. And I said, I wonder, one, it's horrible that they would know where you live. And and two, have you ever encountered anything like fans coming up to you and saying, oh, I remember you in Shock Treatment since then? Yeah.
I mean, I was in a thing called Doctor Who as well.
Yeah.
Which
love Doctor
you do
Who.
Get. Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm still working on Doctor Who now, but in a different kind of. I do all the ADR and the revoicing and cast all the other actors to do the character voices. You know. But I was in a Doctor Who many years ago, and so once you've been in one, you go to these conventions and sign autographs for Doctor Who fans. Lots of time, people would turn up with DVDs of Shock Treatment or the album and ask me to sign that, you know. At the time, Shock Treatment here basically disappeared without trace.
Yeah.
And we all kind of thought, oh well, forget about it. You know, it was a great fun job. We thought Oscar Drill and the Bits might actually have a life after the movie, you know. I think Richard O'Brien thought they might have a life, but because the movie didn't really have a life, so it kind of put, nothing really happened. But I kind of basically forgot about it. It was a job that had finished, and you move on, And it's only recently that it started to bubble up again. There were a lot of fans at the BFI thing in October. A lot of people really, they knew all the words. They were calling out of the screen. I thought it was really good fun. It was really funny. It was.
Because it was supposed to be filmed in the USA, and you would have been traveling.
That's it.
You were going to travel here.
We were all going to Dallas to film it, we were told originally.
I was just thinking how much different that film would have been had they filmed it here in the United States and instead of a studio actually using houses and outdoors. And that would have been very interesting to see. Yeah, it would have been. I'm sure it changed the way they shot it, the fact that it was in a big studio in Wembley, North London, Have you been to the U.S.? Yeah, I visited on a number of occasions. I visited New York first, 30 years ago or something, just for a holiday, just to get to see it. Had a great time. I worked in LA. That was back in 1993. We did, I don't know if you know about the English pantomime. It's an old tradition here. We do it every Christmas, and it's a very specific kind of British tradition, old music hall kind of comedy thing. And everyone here knows it. It's part of our culture, but no one in the States does really. So we took an English pantomime to LA. Zsa Zsa Gabor was in it. Oh. And, it was amazing. Entertainment Tonight filmed it and put it on, and we were there for 3 months, and unfortunately, we were there for the Northridge earthquake, which I was caught up in. Wow, I do remember that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was quite heavy. That was frightening and shocked the life out of me, and because, we don't have earthquakes here. And you said, I'm never coming back to the United States. No, that was it. Yeah, I thought, get me out of this place. Okay. But I also went up to San Francisco on that trip. When the job had finished, I kind of travelled around a bit. I went down to Cuba. You should. So I went to Hawaii. I went to San Francisco. I went down to Latin America, Mexico, I think Costa Rica, Cuba. I went to a few places. Back to Los Angeles. Who I had a friend living there. Had another kind of 2-3 weeks there, mucking around. And then came home. And then last year I went to Florida, went to Orlando with my son, probably a year and a half ago now. Wow. We went to Fort Lauderdale, we went to Miami, we went to Orlando. I want to ask about Chariots of Fire. Ruby Wax from Shock Treatment was in Chariots of Fire. Did you work with her then? Do you have any memories of that? Yeah, funnily enough, Ruby, we worked together twice because obviously Chariots of Fire and Shock Treatment. And she was a really kind of big personality around London at that time. Oh. I mean, when I say personality, I don't mean famous. I mean, we used to hang out with a casting director, my agent, Gary, me, various other young actors trying to make a way in the business. And Ruby Wax was a big friend of our agent. She also represented her. Mm-hmm. She was her pal, and they used to hang out together. So I met Ruby out and about, clubs, bars, restaurants, and she was always hysterical, always making people laugh. She had a really big personality, I can see that. She was great. So although I didn't do anything with her in that film, I knew her already. So I saw her around. And then on Shock Treatment, we were all... That was the thing about Shock Treatment, that unlike films like Chariots of Fire, you can be in a movie with someone and never see them. If you're not in a scene with them, you never meet them. But with Shock Treatment, we were all thrown in. We were all there for the rehearsal. We were all there for the shooting. We might get a day off here and there when they'd say, we don't need Oscar drilling the bits. But in general, basically, we were there for the whole thing. We all got to know Chris Malcolm, who was a lovely guy, died of cancer. We all got to know everyone who was in the movie. Mm-hmm. Even if we didn't actually appear with them in a scene. We lost so many, we lost 4 or 5 people, I guess, from Shock Treatment already. Rik Mayall, of course. Already. Rik Mayall and Charles Gray died. Well, Rik is just a terrible, terrible, sad story.
Because, again, this is this thing I was talking about, energy. Rik Mayall, he was another one, out on the London kind of clubbing scene of all the young performers. He was another one that shone. You know, he was one that you'd meet out and about, you'd end up going back to someone's flat, all the kind of, all that crowd that ended up doing the TV series that were so brilliant that they did. Nigel Planer and all those comedians. He would be the one. He was hysterical, and he had this energy. You know, this kind of manic energy that he was trying out his characters on us. When we were doing shock treatment, he'd come into the dressing room and be one of the first characters that he had a big hit with was a kind of interviewer, a television interviewer. Kevin Turvey. It was called Kevin Turvey. That's what it was called. And he'd come in, hello, I'm Kevin Turvey. And he'd start asking us questions. And he was hysterical.
Oh, my.
And then, yeah, and within a year, Kevin Turvey was a nationwide character. Everybody knew him. Everybody loved him. And that led on to The Young Ones, which was their big series, which made him a star. Again, a tragedy. I knew Rik from then, and, you know, he was just one of those amazing... Yeah. He burnt so bright for so long. And then, you know, he had his terrible...
It was definitely very, very sad when he passed away. And Manning Redwood died, who was Janet's dad.
Yes, that's right. He's so good in the movie as the dad. That's just such a good performance.
They said they had to age him because he was not as old as his character is supposed to be.
Yeah. He was a bit young for it, but he was so good.
If you had any other specific memories that you'd like to share about the filming of it?
As you talk about it, you kind of suddenly get these memories, you know, like the other one that I do remember, I mean, as well as, you can imagine, can't you, this atmosphere. We're in our dressing room, the band, and we're all singing, and we're just singing songs, and we're joking, and we're laughing, and we're not needed for 4 hours, so they say, oh, you know, let's try a new rhythm, and we get a drum out, and we start playing, you know, another groove, and then the door would open, and Rik had come in character, as Kevin Turvey, and start asking us silly questions.
Right.
So you'd have an hour of that, and we'd all be hysterical. And then one day, and this I remember very clearly, because Barry at the time, Barry Humphries, was really famous for Dame Edna Everage, you know, dressing up as that character.
Yeah.
Well, Dame Edna was massive here. Everyone knew Dame Edna. She was a kind of TV personality. More than Barry Humphries. You know, Barry playing a man was quite unusual then. Everyone knew him as Edna Everage, and that was it. And one day, we were all leaving the studio for the day, and out of the dressing room came Dame Edna, in all the gear, with the wig and the makeup and the whole thing. She came walking out of the dressing room. And we were like, yeah, and she was like, hello, how are you, darling? Who are you? And she had to be introduced to us all as if she didn't know us, you know. I said, oh, what are you doing here? And she was fully in character as Dame Edna. And he had a limo waiting outside the studio with a driver saying, oh, darlings, I'm going off to the Royal Albert Hall or something. You know, she was going off to do something. It's just, I mean, and that was the kind of, you know, that sums up the shooting of shock treatment. Every day something would happen and you'd end up talking about it. And we all love Little Nell, of course. Little Nell loved us and would always come into our dressing room and joke around us, because she, to us, was quite mature and glamorous. She was only a few years older than us, but because she'd been in Rocky Horror, you know, movie, and she was a bit famous, you know, we all worshipped her. And Eugene was great. Eugene Lipinski, the guy who, you know...
Yeah, the puppy.
Yeah, he was a lovely guy. I mean, it was just brilliant. And we used to go specifically to a club called the Embassy Club, which was in the West End. And that would be our place. And they knew us, and they put us on the guest list. And they knew we were coming down from filming. Mm-hmm. And they'd say to us, okay, you're on the guest list, you can come in every night, any night you want, and bring whoever you want from the movie. Because they just wanted to get their VIP room filled with, you know, well-known people.
Right.
And in there, this is what I remember being really kind of blown away by, because I was 20. You'd go into the VIP room at the Embassy Club, and there'd be Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, and there'd be Lemmy from Motorhead, and there'd be Chris Squire from Yes, And there'd be all these mega famous rock stars, you know, hanging out in this bar, and we were kind of just there as one of them. And it was just, you know, it just felt like, it was just like a roller coaster ride, the whole thing.
Very VIP.
God knows when we ever slept. I really don't. I mean, we just really went for it and burnt bright and went and stayed up late and got up early and went to work and, you know, never felt tired. Just kind of carried on, you know.
Did you?
And that's kind of my abiding memory looking back now. If I was doing it now, I'd be finishing filming, home to bed, tired, got to have a rest, got to have some energy for tomorrow.
Of course.
You know, but then, because we were so full of it, and we were all, I mean, Sunita was about 16, I think. And we were all kind of 19, 20, 21.
So Sunita was the youngest.
She was the youngest, yeah.
Wow.
She was the youngest. Yeah, no, Sunita was 2 or 3 years young, well, probably 5 years younger than me, I think.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you about a couple of actors and see if you have any specific memories. Jeremy Newson, who played Ralph Hapschatt.
He was, because he was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, wasn't he, as well?
He was, yeah, Ralph Hapschatt.
Yeah, he was the loveliest, gentlest, kindest guy. He was one of those people that, you know, within 5 minutes of conversation with him, you'd feel like you'd known him all your life, and he was like an old uncle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that he was old, but he was just older than us, you know. He was kind of, you know, a reassuring presence, and he seemed very un-showbiz, if you see what I mean.
Right. He wasn't all caught up in the glamour of showbiz.
Yeah. He was very kind of laid back and calm and very professional, and we were all manic. You know, us lot, the Bits and Rik and all that lot and Ruby, we were all kind of, you know, and he was, yeah, okay, you know, really kind of cool guy, you know.
Earth, mellow.
Yes, he was. He really was. I think he left acting, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Well, he was at the Shock Treatment reunion in October. Yeah, because I had a chat with him, and because he's out of the business, and he said to me, "Oh yeah, no, I left the industry soon after Shock Treatment, really, you know."
And then I believe that's pretty much it. I do have Darlene Johnson, who played Janet's mom.
Darlene Johnson was involved with Ruby Wax.
Oh.
They worked together, you know. They had some kind of, I'm not sure whether it was in the theatre, because I know Ruby Wax was also at the Royal Shakespeare Company for a while when I was there. Either Darlene Johnson was also involved in that with her, or they had some kind of double act, comedy act.
Mm-hmm.
Something in the back of my mind tells me they had a kind of comedy duo thing going. I could be completely wrong, Donnie, but this is from the depths of my memory, you know.
Oh, 35
I seem
years.
to remember Wax and Johnson or something like that. You know, I mean, you have to ask them.
It's probably very well true. I can't believe this entire interview I did not ask about the two stars, Jessica and Cliff. Any memories about them?
Oh, yeah. They were great. I mean, we were really impressed with them because they were the big US stars coming over to play the leads. We didn't really know them, but Jessica, to us, I mean, it was almost like a kind of mirroring of the movie when she became, you know, glamorous.
Oh, yeah.
Janet.
Yeah.
You know, she turned up, we were all kind of, all us boys were just like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. You know, we were all completely in love with her.
So when you guys were
a little bit intimidated.
So when you were screaming adoration to her, it's pretty much genuine.
We didn't have to act. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She was in a movie.
I mean, that's what I remember. I remember her being really sweet, but I remember that she was so professional and working so hard and wasn't in any way involved in all the kind of japes and the mucking about and the play, because we had loads of time and we weren't under pressure.
Right.
You know, she was under pressure.
Of course. I appreciate you very much.
Cool.
And I will
It's a pleasure, Donnie.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Donnie, all the best. Cheers.